Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram, and my fellow Forest fanatic from across the Atlantic. It's Richard Spray.
Morning.
I can sit and play that all day, Richard. How you doing, son?
Oh, I'm good. I'm doing really good. Looking forward to chatting with Reese here. It's a good day.
Now, over the past 5 years or even more, the growth of online content in the form of YouTube creators, and TikTok and podcasts has taken off beyond belief. And we ourselves at Talking Reds have indeed jumped onto the craze. And all of a sudden, nearly 6 months in, we've seen for ourselves just how much an audience can grow and consume what you put out there. Our guest today is what some might even say is a bit of a rival. However, we certainly don't see it that way at all. As well as being an ardent Forest fan and dealer in Nottingham Forest football shirts, he is one quarter of another very popular Forest podcast. And we're delighted that he's here with us today for the one with Reese from Red's side of the Trent. Reese, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for having me on. And how are yourselves?
Yeah, we're great. We're really chuffed you could join us.
Yeah,
and
no
we're looking
problem
forward
at
to chatting with you and just finding out a bit more about you as well. Don't forget, if you are joining us live here on YouTube, you can drop your comments in the chat. If you don't say hi, then we don't know that you're here, and we do like to give shout outs where possible. And of course, if you're listening to this later on either Apple or Spotify, or indeed on the YouTube playback, perhaps you've got your headphones on and you're having a workout in front of the TV to Mr. Motivator, or maybe you're in bed and with your bedtime listening or something similar. We thank you for joining us as well. All right, Talking Reds are doing a giveaway. If you haven't seen it on X, we are giving away a pre-match Forest jersey shirt. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel here, go to our X account and follow the instructions on the pinned post. The first person that we draw out will get that pre-match Forest jersey. It could be the white one that we've advertised. If you fancy one of the other colors, then that's fine, as long as we can get it in your size. The person that gets drawn out second will get the lovely cheese platter / hamper from our sponsor, The Cheese Trader. All right, go over to our X account, check out the pinned post, and all the information is there. We hope that you will consider liking and subscribing to Talking Reds. We want to push out as much content as we can your way. The likes and the subscribes really help. And as we've said a billion times before, we're trying to get up to 1,000 by Christmas, or certainly by the 31st of December, end of the year. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into this. Reese, we always get into it by starting with our guests and asking them about themselves and your own Forest story. How did you become a Forest fan? Why are you a Forest fan? And all that kind of stuff. So the floor is yours, sir.
Wow. I started just through my dad, really. I think there's going to be no other club, really. I mean, I grew up in Ilkeston, which is which is in Derbyshire. I'm not sure people be hissing at the screen now, but it's right on the border with Nottinghamshire, part of Nottinghamshire's urban area. Got a Nottinghamshire phone code, so I'm going to try and big it up to be part of Nottinghamshire. But so it's very, very split, Ilkeston, Derby and Forest. Obviously, you get the United fans, etc., but very split. And it was just through my dad, really. He's been fortunate to go to the European Cup finals, etc., and when I was 4 years of age, he took me to my first game, which was against Middlesbrough in the Premier League, when they had the likes of Janino and Ravanelli and then type of players. But can't really remember much back then. And I went to like odd games, probably from 96 to 2002. And then for Christmas, the 02-03 season, I got my first, it was a half season ticket back then, which was the Poor Heart promotion season. And then, basically had one bar a couple of years due to work commitments at one stage every season since. So, that's basically. So I've gone through the mill, and to now be sat fifth in the Premier League is, a lovely feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So like when you probably have friends that are not Nottingham Forest fans. I know I have friends that are not Nottingham Forest fans, or maybe I even have family members that are not Nottingham Forest fans. From a friendship group standpoint and how you support the team, do you think it makes the bond a lot stronger when you're all sort of connected through that club sort of communities type situation versus like, when you're a bunch of friends who maybe spend a lot of time together, but you have different teams that you support?
To be honest, is like as probably a kid to a teenager, really, most of my friends didn't support Forest. I kind of dotted around going with odd people, and at times even went with friends who just wanted to go and watch football. Really, I remember going with one of my friends who's an Arsenal fan. I remember going to a Wolves game, which was probably in 2017, maybe, just random friends dragging them along because, at that time, like my friendship group were just not really interested in going to live football. They like football, but I think since I met my partner, who I met, who I started going out with in 2018, my circle of friends has got more Forest orientated than now, to a point where I meet up with quite a lot of them on a match day. Last season it was more Stratford Haven, but it has gone more towards Trent Nav this season, because obviously they show the football, etc. So it's always nice to see people you probably wouldn't see if it wasn't for Forest, to be honest. Always nice to enjoy the moments together when they are good with friends, for sure.
I can kind of empathise with that because I grew up down south, as I mentioned previously. So I was always the only Forest fan by far, and I still live in the sort of the London, Hertfordshire area. So every time I wear a Forest shirt out, you do get some looks saying, we don't see many Forest shirts around. So it's always been interesting for me when I go back up to Nottingham and I'm in amongst other Forest fans as well. It just kind of all of a sudden you just get a sense of that tribalness that can go with being a football fan. And when you're going into the likes of the Nav and everyone's got their shirts and everyone's for the team, it really is something. So you've got this group of friends now, and I'm leading into talking about Red Side of the Trent, really. So you Adam and Christian and Lee and yourself make up the fantastic Forest podcast, Red Side of the Trent. So let's talk about that. Tell us how that started. Whose idea was it? What was the purpose of it really in the first place? Tell us about some of the ups and downs you faced and all that kind of stuff. And whose idea was it originally?
I will take credit to say it's mine, and I'll be completely honest, probably down to failed dreams, because when I was leaving secondary school and going to sixth form at the time, I wanted to be a sports journalist. That's what I wanted to be. When I was 15, 16, no other sport really mattered to me apart from football. I've become more fond towards boxing nowadays, after football, of course, and also do like watching other sports, etc. But it was just all football back then. Just live, sleep, and breathe football, and I kind of backed my knowledge of the game as so it was kind of that really. And obviously, as you said in the intro, Greg, like podcasts started to become a thing, I think probably more in lockdown. And obviously with my job, which was which consists of driving, I have kind of time to consume a lot of audio, so I started listening to just football podcasts, really. Under the Cosh is a popular one. I still listen to it today. And it was something that really interested me. And obviously, Christian and Lee come from a journalist background. Adam also had a channel before really Forest podcasts come onto the scene, which he gave up, and it annoys me really because he just didn't like Martin O'Neill's management, and he just gave it up. So, and I think he was doing really well with it. We actually mentioned it on our pod this morning, putting up a goal of Hilal Soudani, which got absolutely attacked by all the Algerians, and I think he said it had like 50,000 hits because it was just all Algerians piling on it, etc. So, yeah, it just come from that really. And I just said to, I didn't really know Adam, Christian, or Lee then. I just people I chatted with on Twitter really, but so kind of like spoke to them and said, we had like similar views really. Would you be interested in kind of doing this pod? And we was all like, yeah. Finally got it off the ground when we was, at a really low point under Chris Hughton, just come back after COVID. His first episode was the 2-1 defeat against Bournemouth. We were bottom of the championship and really, really struggling. And yeah, it's just gone on from them really. And there's a lot of people out there doing it now, especially for Forest, because obviously Forest have gone from a team at the bottom of the championship who are now, in the higher echelons of the Premier League. So yeah, just from that really. And yeah, there's been ups and downs. Obviously, when you're giving your opinion on football, as you see on Twitter, it's a double-edged sword really. You get credit and you also get negatives. Unfortunately, people do go a bit extreme and it gets personal, which we've had, but that's part of giving your opinion on football, unfortunately. And yeah, there's been times when I wanted to kind of knock it on the head because Forest, like last season was so tedious. That battle with Luton, it was just an absolute slog. And I always stuck with the fact that Luton were awful, and I just thought we can't go down instead of these. But yeah, when obviously the good times like they are now, and you have to kind of enjoy the ride. It's really enjoyable to chat about Forest, and I will chat with anyone pretty much about football. I have to kind of, sometimes customers with my job get it talking to me about football, and you kind of have to think, oh, geez, I need to crack on here with my job. So, yeah, that's basically like a brief intro where it started, really.
Yeah, I can empathize with you. Like Greg was talking about empathizing with his position in terms of where he lives, being a Forest fan. But for me, it's like every vendor that I work with at work that comes in and does work for us, independently that we hire and contract with, they're all aware of who I support. They just get inundated with it, and it's like it begins every time we have a meeting with them. That's where we start the conversation rather than work stuff. But yeah,
Christian on our pod is obviously from Kent. I've got another friend who comes up to games who lives in Kent. So yeah, we are all over the UK, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So what about content? Like for from a focus standpoint, do you guys simply kind of tend to orient yourself around? I know you like to do some things with fans, right? And I'm sure you'll speak to that. But what about is it just mostly reaction stuff to matches? And has there been like specific challenges that you've had to face, kind of trying to build it?
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is there's so much Forest content out there now, and also obviously you've got Matt who does a really good job with Forest Focus, but he's doing that as his career and as a professional aspect. So to kind of compete with someone who's doing it professionally is really tough. So we kind of like, plus as well, we've got his own lives and his own careers and stuff. So we always try and we always do one after each game. I mean, at the start in the championship, we used, because it was like Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday back then, we'd probably just do like a weekly pod and just talk about all the games. But because we're in the Premier League, people want, like instant reaction. So we do it like after every game. We also try and get a few different fans on when we can, because, people have said to us before, as much as they enjoy like watching you four, we do like to, see it rotated, which I know other podcasts do. So yeah, we've always just gone as a fans podcast. it's just it's fans' opinions. Like I said, unfortunately, sometimes people can get a bit, negative towards you, but that's all it's always been. It's just for fans, match going fans, go home and away, just giving an opinion. I think probably the most negative aspect was probably when we started was that none of us are really massive fans of Brian Yates. So that obviously he's always a very I'm not going to say divisive because he's a top bloke into Yates. He obviously his football ability always divides the fan base. So I've always said this on my personal Twitter. It's a very vicious circle, and it's kind of like everybody's when he has a good game, everybody's people are winding up the people who don't rate him, and then when he does have a bad game, which happens in football because they are human, it's the opposite way around. So we probably got a bit of negativity at that for a start, but this season he's done really well, which is brilliant to see. For me, it's never. I just want to see Forest do well. I generally don't care what players in the team if they're doing well. But like I said, when you give your opinion on football, you're going to get negativity. I mean, look at the stuff what even the top pundits get when you read through Twitter. Most of it, let's be honest, because this is the society we live in, is negative, unfortunately. But and then if you do put something positive to someone, you get accused of being a kiss arse, as social media goes. So sometimes you can't win, but for the people who listen to and view our pod, we hope they like it, and we've grown from a base of 0 to a pretty decent following. So yeah,
you have, and when Richard and I set up Talking Reds, we've been fairly fortunate because we've only been going since just before the last game of last season, and so therefore the match reaction stuff and the pre-match stuff we've got to talk about has all been this really good purple patch we've been in this season. So we're yet to go through podding when we're really kind of dealing with dark days and not very good football and things going wrong. And I'm sure that will come. But when you are building a pod, I mean, we didn't set out to sort of jump onto a Happy Clappers type trail. We had followed Forest Focus primarily and hooked up through that and said, we want to talk about Forest as well. And so let's just set up and let's see where it goes. And I've always said we've got our little corner that we're kind of building on, and there's enough space for all the pods because we watch them all as much as we can, and just kind of ingesting and digesting as much content about Forest is really what it's all about for me. So, everyone does it differently. And it's really good, I think, to have that wide range of opinions, because if everyone's got the same opinion, I think it gets a little bit boring. I think you need to have people that are prepared to put their necks on the line and say, well, actually, this is what I think, and I don't actually see it that way, and have a healthy debate. One thing that strikes me is that we get comments coming through, and some of the people don't really understand that, your opinion doesn't mean that you're right. Your opinion is your opinion. And sometimes it's interesting when you read comments and people just don't really understand how you can think a certain way. I just don't understand how you could ever imagine it being like that. And you think, well, that's because I've got my own brain and I see it differently. So as much as podcasts can be, fantastic and really draw in on the community that Forest is, we recognize as well that there are some people out there that want to be negative, and you can get trolls and you can get some negative abuse. And we hope that doesn't happen much, but we know that it can happen.
Well, like you said, Greg, you get this from some people on Twitter who kind of see all Forest pods as kind of rivals, and it's like we all support the same team, we all want the same thing, we all want Forest to do well. I know a few of the guys on Forest Focus. Obviously spoke to you guys. There's like no rivalry between Forest pods. That's for sure. But yeah.
Well, no, because we actually said as well before we had you come on today, and we were going to sort of maybe try and do a crossover. So maybe like get a couple of you guys from Red Side and we come on with me and Richard, and we do like a proper crossover event. Because why not? We're all talking about the same club that we love. That we can come up with some interesting content that kind of like appeals to the people that are watching, and the people that are watching now, the people that are listening. the reason why we're here is for you. We want you guys to just listen and get involved and chat with us about Forest. And these one with episodes are designed to try and help us find out a bit more about the guests. So we're talking about Reese, we're talking about Red Side, we're talking about their journey, we're talking about how and why they're fans, because, you know, that kind of angle we think is important as well. We want to try and find out about our fans. And I want to say as well, Christian from Red Side, he's just released a book.
Yeah,
and I bought it last night. As soon as I saw it, I thought, I've got to buy that. He has released a book called Just Can't Get Enough, and it is effectively the Cooper era, from what I can gather. So that's available on Amazon. Go and buy it. It's about £18-19. It looks brilliant, and support Christian and the book he's written. I've done that, and I think that all Forest fans, where possible, should try and do that. It can make a great Christmas present for someone. So I'll get the link and I'll whack it in the chat. So Just Can't Get Enough by Christian Brown is available on Amazon. So try and support him, fellow Forest fan. And that book looks like it could be a good read. So let's move back onto you, Reese. One other thing that you are known for are the football shirts, the Forest shirts. And I'm wearing a shirt that I purchased off you. I actually got this shirt. And the funny story is, guys, that I saw this shirt. I thought, I haven't got that one. It was a brand new with tags. The price was really good. I thought, I'm going to buy that. So I got it. And about 2 hours later, Richard sent me a WhatsApp with a picture saying, have you seen this? I think I'm going to get that. I was like, yeah, I've actually already bought that. He was like, oh, F blinding and cheese and that kind of stuff. Well, Richard doesn't really swear that much, to be fair. So it was more shoot down. But no, it's just interesting that you put out decent shirts, and I know you've sold quite a few along the way. So tell us about how that started. You are the man behind Nottingham Forest Shirts account on X. So you started selling, I think, just before COVID or something like that, was it? Is that right?
Yeah, so during COVID, really. So obviously I've always kind of had odd, Forest. I mean, as a kid, my dad wouldn't let me wear any other shirts apart from Forest or England. So yeah, so the thumbs up there. So obviously I've always had like shirts and that up until, COVID, odd shirts and stuff. And then basically just before COVID hit, me and my partner went to watch Dortmund, and we also went to watch another German team who are now in the Bundesliga called Bochum, which is like 10 miles away from Dortmund, something like that. And I just was like, basically, I'd like to get a Dortmund shirt because, they're very hipstery, aren't they, Dortmund? And then with Forest, my favourite home shirt, apart from the GOAT, which is the European Cup one, is the 94-95. I just see that shirt as really iconic, just for an era of kits where every kind of Prem team had their own unique kit. It's very different to a normal, probably typical Forest kit, because he's got black on it, which we don't really have. And I don't really think a Forest home shirt should have black on it, really. But yeah, so I was basically looking on eBay one day, found the 94-95 home, bid on it, and got it for 35 quid it was back then. And I was like, oh, I'm really pleased with that. And then obviously COVID hit. My partner was still working from home. I was fortunate to be off. That's the one. I was fortunate to be off at the time and very luckily on full pay. So I was kind of not really doing anything apart from playing Call of Duty at the time, just to pass the time. And my work at the time, my boss was very deep into COVID, so he just didn't want me anywhere near the place. It got to a point where a couple of months in, I was like, look, can I come back? Because I was just, and he was like, no. So I think I ended up having about 3 or 4 months off. So yeah, so basically brought that shirt, and then it was kind of like, what other Forest shirts do I like? And then I just started adding bits and bobs to my collection. People during COVID were obviously clearing out lofts and garages and that, and so I was just buying Forest shirts, and it just started from them, really. And then it kind of got to a point where people were selling really cheap bundles at the time for all shirts in my size, what I didn't have. And then it was like, do I start getting every shirt that I can? it just kind of took off, really. And I'm at a point now where I've got every shirt in my size from mid-80s up until present day. And to be honest, there's some shirts I don't think I've even worn, to be honest. And I mean, obviously, when we come back from COVID and the promotion season started, when we was getting into, the business end of the season, I was buying and selling, and I was selling so many, and I was getting like handed with TMs for shirts, and they were selling like hot cakes, and so yeah, it's just from them really, and I've kept it up, and there has been times where I think to myself, shall I sell some, because like I said, some I just don't really wear, but I've still got them all, and then it got to a point where like I've completed this collection really, and the only shirt I needed was a 1986 away, which I actually got a couple of weeks ago. And it's in my size, which is a large, and it's absolutely tiny. So there's no chance of me getting that on. So it'll probably have to go on display in somewhere in this office. And then it kind of got onto match worn shirts really. And so very fortunately last season, I was just scouring on Depop, and I saw a Harry Toffolo match-worn shirt from the West Ham game, which was our Poppy game last season. So it got the Poppy in the middle of the shirt, and it was absolutely caked in dirt, and it was a really good price. So I just brought it straight away impulsively and thought, well, if it turns out to be a dud through Depop, I'll get my money back. And the guy was genuine. And I was like, how did you get it? Because he wasn't a Forest fan or anything. He's like, oh, I know West Ham's kit man, so I can get shirts pretty much most games. So I was like, oh, here's my number. And I've had some incredible shirts off him for Forest, which I'm just looking at some of them displayed now because they're kind of at this wall here. And I've also had loads of other Premier League teams as well. So it's kind of gone into match-worn shirts now, really. And I've probably got about 20 of them. The only shame is with the Adidas ones, unless they've obviously got marks on them, is the same as the fans version. With the Macron shirts, they've got that GPS pocket in the back where you can kind of identify that it's a player version. So yeah, that's how it started and how it's going. And to be honest, as I said before we started the pod, they're not as sought after now, retro shirts are for Forest, because I think most people's probably brought what they wanted, and now you've got a shiny Premier League badge on your left arm. I think the new shirts are probably crept in a little bit more, but you see plenty of shirts on a match day, different shirts, which is always nice to see.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been trying to collect Forest shirts even more so the last 2 or 3 years. I've got shirts through the years. I mean, there's some that I've got from 10, well, more than that, 15 years ago. They just don't fit, because I used to be a large. I'm not a large anymore. Got into the XL kind of side of things. But I mean, you mentioned a couple of shirts then. So is it the yellow one or the white one you've just got?
So it's the white one I've just got. Yeah, that one I've got. I've had the 86 home I've had for a while. Which is also a pretty cool shirt. They're very rare. Them shirts. I mean, the 86 away is very, very rare.
The 85 to 86 shirt on screen, bottom left with the Forest badge in the middle. That is my favourite home shirt. Probably my favourite Forest shirt of all time. I remember being in what is now year 6 in primary school, wearing that, because we didn't have uniforms in those days. You could wear what you like. So I remember wearing that to primary school all the time, and I had that. And I used to love, the horizontal sort of shiny tram lines that go through it, and it is just an absolutely amazing shirt. And I think there's one on eBay at the moment for £1,000, which is about probably where it's at for that kind of shirt at the moment. I mean, I've seen them go for that. The funny thing is, my cousin Mick, I think he's still got. He'll correct me if I'm wrong if he hears this, but I think he's still got at least 5 or 6 or 7 of those shirts, because he had a whole kit given to him.
Right.
For the youth, but they're youth sizes. They're like from the youth team.
Yeah.
Because he had links into Forest for years and years and years and that kind of stuff. So he had a whole kit that they used for one of the teams he ran, and it was a youth sizes and that. So I'm trying to nick one off him, but whether I get one or not, I don't know. But no, I mean, these are the kind of shirts that I'm after. So the top left, the Forest 86 or 87. Again, I had that one as well, but that's gone by the wayside. I had the away one there. So for me to try and get these shirts now, I mean, they're the ones that you pay your money for, right, Reese? They're the ones that, if you're going to buy them, they're the ones that are going to cost you the most money. So what is it about football shirts in general that capture interest, do you think? Because I'm really into them. And I know some people think that's really sad, 50-year-old bloke wearing football shirts. But I don't care. I wear them all the time. I wear them around the house. I wear them, because I just find them comfortable. If it's a Forest shirt, I'm interested. And Alan March as well. He's coming on the podcast soon. We'll talk to him about football shirts because he's got a business as well with football shirts. So what is it about football shirts do you think that capture interest? What is the rarest shirt that you've got? And in terms of what's the most valuable in terms of price wise or is sentimental value? So couple of kind of questions there to think about. But first and foremost, what is it about football shirts do you think that capture interest?
I don't know why. I don't know why. Probably do you know why? Because of, like I said, COVID was, just playing Call of Duty for me, and I just had so much and this sounds a bit arrogant, but because I was getting paid 100%, that you just had money, you just saving, and which was lucky for me because I was in the process of buying a house. But you just want to spend your money on something, don't you? What you can kind of have as, when it's just constant saving, it does drain you a little bit. You got to get a little bit of money for yourself, So I don't. So it's probably just out of boredom, really, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control. Yeah, I mean, I think most football fans, you look at when a kit's about to be released at the start of the season. Now it's every season now, isn't it? I mean, back when I was a kid, you'd alternate, wouldn't you? You'd have a home one season, and that'd stay for 2 seasons, and the away would come out, and next season that'd stay for 2 seasons. Then we started having a third kit, etc. So it's always it always attracts an audience, doesn't it, a kit. You see it with Forest. Everyone's got an opinion on it. So as much as, and look, people are entitled to opinion, but does it really matter if people want to wear a football shirt or not? I don't. If people want to, brilliant. If they'd rather wear, typical football clobber, which I also have some of that as well, then that's up to them. But yeah, like I say, it's always a talking point into. I mean, we see it with Forest. I mean, everyone's got a say of what we'd like to see. I've always kind of thought why we never remade the 94 to 96, or I think it's 93 to 95 away, the purpley blue Labatt's. No one's ever had a go at remaking that, and I'm thinking that would sell so well for Forest. We've seen this summer with Adidas Originals, which haven't brought out a Forest range. Forest would sell so much of that, and it's a real shame we've kind of not got that. And I was actually a bit disappointed with the Speciale stuff, really. I know some fans like the trainers, etc., but I was actually a little bit disappointed personally. But yeah, and then what was your other question again? Oh, the value on it. I mean, the 84 home, what you just mentioned, Greg, about your favourite shirt, that is right up there. That's actually on display over here, because that's also too small for me. It says it's a large, but it's more like a small/medium. So yeah, that one is definitely up there. The 86 away is probably the rare. I mean, before 84 to kind of European Cup era, and also the yellow one, what you just put on screen. A lot of them are only really about, you see them in kid sizes, or if they are adults, a lot of them are battered, or obviously, because of how old they are. But like I said, the 84 home is really expensive. The 86 away, you're talking, around probably to get one of them around probably 300 quid. And then also the iconic, I think it's 92, the green third shirt, which we never actually wore apart from in a friendly. I believe that's always high up on the agenda of prices. And there's also another one which is from 2000, I believe, which is also a third shirt, which is it's black, and it's what the famous three Italians unveiled in, which was actually then went to I believe a training kit, which so we had never actually wore that. That's also really rare. So that for collectors, there was quite a few of them about. So I think everyone who wanted one of them kind of got one. And there's a couple what have been stuck on eBay now for a while, but they're more, I'd say, expensive ones. And then like you're talking then like your match worns. Now we're in the Premier League. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have come across the website Match Worn Shirt. They've got all our poppy shirts for the game against Newcastle just gone. And last time I looked, Murillo's shirt is going for about £6,000.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy. I mean, like for my match worns, like from my contact, so that's like, so the one behind me is Gibbs White's shirt from the Palace game. Sorry, from the West Ham home game. And I paid a couple of £100 for that, luckily. But but yeah, that's basically it, really.
It's very easy to get carried away, I've found. And easily. One thing I will say is, while you've been talking, one of the shirts I was watching on eBay has just ended.
Yeah,
I've just bid on it while you're talking. I've just won it. I just got it.
Lovely.
Literally, the away shirt there, the Nottingham Forest away.
Yeah.
Because I've got the home and I've never had the away, and I was following it. It just came up. It's about to end, so I was like, okay, I've got to get it. So I've just got it for £42. So I'm actually quite happy with that.
That's pretty reasonable. That is, yeah. That's really reasonable. Yeah.
So that was quite funny. I'm actually purchasing a shirt while you're talking. The one that you mentioned a minute ago about the black one that became the training kit, is that this one? Is that one?
No.
You see that? No.
I'll try
because that's the one that's on eBay as well. And I was thinking, if that's the one you're talking about, that's on for £43. But look, we can sit and chat shirts all day long, and ultimately we have to move on because we're going to run out of time. I want to say hello to Holly from Forest Women Fancast, loving Reese's Euro 96 banner in the background.
There's another one over there as well.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic. Danscape. He wants to know, have you got Ryan Yates on the back of any of your shirts, Reese?
I've actually got a match worn Ryan Yates shirt. It's actually on a hanger. It's not in this room. It's actually on a hanger. It's from the promotion season. It's actually signed. I brought it off another collector. So So when people are like, you lads on red side of the Trent don't like Ryan Yates, how many of Ryan Yates' top fans have got a Ryan Yates match worn shirt? But I'll fire back at him.
We will get into the squad and the season so far shortly, but one thing we ask everybody to do who comes on to Talking Reds is to pick their personal favourite all-time Forest 11. And Reese, I know you agonised over this, so we don't have time to go into every single position, but here's Reese's team. In goal, Doris de Vries, interesting choice. Left back, Ola Aina. Right back, Jed Spence. A back two in the centre-back pairing of Murillo and Felipe. And then in the midfield, we got Jack Colback, James Garner, Hudson-Odoi on the left, Joe Lolly on the right, Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10, with Robbie Earnshaw up top. That's Reese's Reds. Some interesting choices in there. Tell us about one or two of your picks, Reese, if you can.
Go on, which ones do you want to fire at me?
Okay, so
mate.
Why is Doris de Vries in there? Because that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, it is a very interesting choice. Obviously, for a fan of my ear, I think the obvious choice would probably be Bree Samba. A lot of people also say Lee Camp, who was brilliant them 2 seasons under Billy for us. I mean, I remember the chant at the time with England's #1, and there was actually genuine cause for him to be called up to England because England, weren't in a really good place back then. So Doris de Vries, basically, my first thought of him was when we beat Derby 2-1 when Osborne scored in the last minute. He made a brilliant save in that game where I think it was Jamie Warder's shot, took a huge deflection, he pushed it over. And then because he kind of took over from Carl Darla, I think midway through that season, I think Pearce actually changed it. And then the season after, I had a season ticket then in Lower Bridgeford, and this was the 150th season under Dougie Freeman. It would have been. He was absolutely brilliant that season. Some of the saves he made were so good, just being right behind that goal. And I believe, I might be wrong, that he won Player of the Season that season. So at the end of that season, Fawaz, in his infinite wisdom, did like 150th dinner, and you could apply as a season ticket holder to get tickets. And I won a pair of tickets, and then Fawaz didn't show up. But all the squad was there, that squad, and I got chatting to Doris de Vries, and he was just such a nice guy. I just said to him, look, without being a sycophantic, saying, look, I basically sat behind the Bridgeford end this season, and I just want to say, some of the saves you made have been absolutely brilliant, and he was just so nice, and had a good few minutes chat with me. So he was the one why I put in there as a bit of a different choice, really.
I've got to quickly put this up to interrupt. Chris is saying that Greg, I've just beat him to that away shirt.
Yeah, I know Chris is a nice guy.
Do you know what?
Becoming actually, a theme, Greg.
I pushed the button on my bid too early because I still left about 45 seconds for anybody to jump in. Because I normally try and leave it 10 seconds to go. A little trick there. Chuck your biggest bid in. So I thought I was going to get outbid again. So look, listen, Chris, you snooze, you lose, mate. I'm sorry about that.
Chris is a fellow collector like me. That's some great stuff.
Sorry, Chris. Well, I might be coming back to you, Chris, to maybe get some shirts if you're selling any. You've gone for one more player we'll talk about. James Garner. Now, putting loan players in is absolutely fine. They played for Forest. They signed for Forest. They were transferred in on a temporary loan. They're still valid. They're still there. But not many people pick loan players. Jed Spencer's popped up a couple of times. But James Garner's in your team. Why's that?
Honestly, my favourite ever centre mid since watching Forest. Obviously in the Premier League now, we might have. I'm a massive fan of Nico Dominguez and what he's doing at the minute. But
yeah,
I just love Garner, and I was pretty gutted he didn't sign for us. And we can't really say how it had gone for Forest. He might still have been here now, and he still might have been in the team, because I just thought we were the perfect team for him to kind of develop. And with Everton, they're kind of a bit of a mess, aren't they? And I know he's played in different positions for Sean Dyche, as he has for England 21s, but. Yeah, I think during the Houghton era, only two players probably come out with a bit of credit for me, because it was that bad, and that is Scott McKenna and Garner, because he was just that bad one time. I mean, every player pretty much just was playing below par. I think of Lewis Graben, who was a frequent scorer in the Championship, but guaranteed to get you 15 goals a season. I think in that season under COVID, I think he got 4 or 5 maybe. But thankfully we got Garner back, because I think we had to compete for his signature at the time. The season after, I think Wayne Rooney was trying to get him for Derby at the time, but he come back to us, and that season I just thought he was absolutely brilliant. And to be fair, I'll give credit to Ryan Yates as well. I thought they complemented each other really well. But Garner, I just thought he was just a midfielder that I thought had everything about his game. He was really aggressive, loved the tackle, as we saw, I think, in the playoff final against Huddersfield, when Saul Thomas was coming down the left flank, he flew into a challenge. He could pass, he could take set pieces, he could cross, he could score goals. I thought he was an all-round centre midfielder, and like I said, I was just really gutted that we didn't sign him at the time, especially when you look at some of the midfielders we did sign. Kouyaté was a bit. Obviously, we had big expectations of Remo Freuler, and to be honest, I think the way we played probably startled him a lot. But yeah, I'd have just loved for Garner to have stayed with us. But it's a shame, really. It's kind of a bit meh for him at Everton.
Well, we had him in our promotion season when he contributed. Jack Colback, you've got there in midfield. I mean, he played the promotion season basically at left back, didn't he? I know he gave a lot to Forest. We can never argue with anybody's selection, because it's a personal choice. Players that have meant something to you along your journey as a Forest fan, all of them have worn the Garibaldi Red, and we love them all. But that's Reese's Reds. Thank you very much for that. Okay, time is moving on. So that means, Richard, that it's time for this.
The lightning round!
All right, it's the lightning round, guys. It's the lightning round. So, Reese, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically we're just going to rattle off a series of questions, answer as quickly as possible, and we'll move through this relatively quick. So, what was your first Forest match live?
Started in Forest Borough, 1996, finished 1-1.
Nice. What about favorite Forest player of all time?
Oh, Jesus. I'd really struggle. I'll probably say Earnshaw.
Interesting. Yeah, not heard that one before. I would great choice. What about what player in Forest history would you like to see on the current squad?
Oh God, that's really tough. I think I would, like I said on my last comment, I would have liked to see James Garner stay with us and seen where he could have gone with us, but we're pretty stacked in centre mid, aren't we now, to be fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of talent there. What about your favorite away or third kid? I know this might be a tough one.
I'll give you a bit of the underrated one and a left field one, which was the black. We had it in League One in the Championship. It was black with blue and white here, Capital One Umbro. That's a really underrated away Forest shirt, I think.
I've got that one.
Greg's got that one. Yeah,
I got that one. I bought that for myself for my birthday.
I mean, this one I'm wearing now is a beauty as well, I must say.
Nice.
Yeah, very much.
What about your favorite Forest moment or memory?
Beating Liverpool away. It's all Wembley without a doubt. And before that, it would have been the Osborne goal at Derby. I was lucky enough to be there that day.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Those are great options. If you weren't a Forest fan, I know you're going to probably have a hard time with this one. What club would you support?
If Forest obviously was to go under tomorrow, and obviously we didn't reform, I'd support Ilkeston, my local team, really, and I'd probably just go and watch games abroad, to be honest.
Nice.
Brilliant.
That's cool. Brilliant. What about apart from Cloughy or Cooper, who was your favorite Forest manager?
I mean, at the time, I did love Billy Davis, but obviously he was a bit of a poison on the end. In my first season, Paul Hart, that team, what he produced was such a great side, and it was just a shame we didn't get back the season after, because if we would have added Huckabee and kept his best players, we would have gone up the season after. It's a real shame, really. We signed, I think it was Sonner, Michael Stewart and Brynjar Gunnarsson in that summer and lost a lot of his best players.
Yeah, well, that's a great call out. I know a few people have said Paul Hart. What about if Forest could sign one player from a non-top six side, who would it be? So you can include Villa in that if you want, or you got Bournemouth. I mean, Villa are kind of a sort of on that fringe, but
someone who springs to mind, this because it's obviously lightning, so I'm just trying to think on my feet. I said in the summer that we needed a kind of an out-and-out right winger, so Mbuemo from Brentford would be a good one.
Dan's a huge fan. Danscape.
Very good player. Very underrated.
He's been great this season. Yeah, he's been great this season for sure. So based off on what they do on the pitch right now, in your mind, who's more valuable, Morgan Gibbs White or Murillo?
On what they do on the pitch, I'd say Gibbs White, because I mean, I absolutely love Murillo, and he's probably the best centre half I've seen at Forest. But if we sold Murillo, say for 70 million, and got another player like Milenkovic at the back, so two Milenkovic at the back, and cost 12 million, I think we'd be still very solid at the back. It's just what Murillo brings, like playing out from the back, and his speed, but gives White. I know a few are saying at the minute because he's been a little tiny bit off form, but he's still, for me, his talisman. When he's fully fit, the key passes and the chances he creates, and that link from midfield to attack, I think. I think Murillo will be easier to replace personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Forest win the Premier League, but are then relegated to the Championship for the next 25 years. Would you take it?
You'd probably have to say so, wouldn't you? obviously European football comes with that as well, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely. Well, hey, there you go, man. Lightning round, well done.
I majored in lightning
Thanks, Greg.
rounds. All right.
Excellent. Right, time is running short, so let's just switch things over to talking about the team, the club, the season so far. Reese, sum it up for us. How you're feeling? Obviously, we are 5th in the Premier League. We're off the back of that defeat to Newcastle. I mean, it's a bit of a dream, isn't it, for all Forest fans after the 2 seasons we've had back in the Premier League?
Oh, yeah, to be talking about, dreaming about, spoke about this in our pod, to be dreaming about European football, that is, my dream was always to see Forest back in the Premier League. That's now happened. I think the next dream from a Forest perspective is to see us in Europe. I think that would be the one. And I don't care what competition it is, to be honest. They can create another competition if they want. But yeah, Conference League would do. Yeah, I mean, as a football fan, you can only live. You got to see the bigger picture, aren't you, and see how well we've been doing this season. But obviously, you're always disappointed to lose games, and the problem is for us now, we've got to wait 2 weeks sat on his hands, haven't we, until we've got another game. So, yeah, I know fans like to talk in blocks of fixture, and you look at the next block, and it looks on paper quite difficult. But I'm just happy taking one game at a time, and I do that in the knowledge, thinking at the minute, which is the best thing about it, is that we can go into any game and give anyone a game. And to be honest, in probably last season, and especially the first season, I was doing every away game that season, and you was going to away games and you just watched the team on the pitch. And once a team went ahead, you was like, yeah, we're just going to we're going to get beat, or on numerous occasions thrashed here. And it was tedious to watch at times.
Who stood out for you so far this season? I mean, the obvious names, I won't mention them, I'll let you speak, but there are obvious players that are standing out in amongst the team that are playing well. But who stood out for you so far, Reese?
I mean, like you just said, Greg, you got to hand it to the whole team. Chris Wood's going to stand out because of the goals he scored. It's 8 and 11 into. I mean, for any striker at Premier League level, if Erling Haaland had scored 8 and 11 this season, you'd probably say, yeah, that's a really good return, even for his standards. So you got to obviously say him. I don't think many Forest fans probably, well, I guarantee no Forest fan would have thought he'd done eight goals after 11 games for sure. Milenkovic has come in and he's pretty much as he can solved the set piece issues. He's also, I think, brought Murillo on alongside him, and how we talked about the Garner-Yates combo in the Championship earlier, that Milenkovic-Murillo combo where they've got different strengths is just so good, and they've worked together so well. It's been really nice to see Dominguez come from the cold, because he was probably 5th, 6th choice centre mid at one point, and he's been absolutely brilliant. The 4 games he's played, the first 3 games without a doubt in the man of the match conversations for me. It's also been really good to see Ryan Yates has improved again this season, for his critics. And, I have criticised him at times. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think he's improved. I actually think he's matured as a leader as well. So, yeah, I mean, the wing backs, Aina and Moreno, have both been superb. Hudson-Odoi was, still getting that trademark finish from him. So there's lots to like at the minute. So yeah, it's just really nice to see, and I just hope we can keep it up. And it's something what I said on our pod was that Everton just after Christmas is the halfway stage. If we're still in the top half by then, I think that's a brilliant achievement personally. As much as we want to dream of Europe, and I'll still keep dreaming of Europe while it's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. What about just the way the team's sort of morphed? I think, do you see it as more of a style of play or strategy difference, or is it more like just about the recruitment and how those players have sort of just gelled from a culture standpoint? What do you think has been the biggest change from last season, or at least the first 2 seasons, to this one?
To be honest, it's very easy to see what we've become now to kind of bash Steve Cooper, and I don't kind of like it in a way, because the hand he was dealt in the first season, where he's chucked 30 players, assemble a team, and you look at the teams who actually went down that season, Southampton, Leeds, Leicester. I know they had shocking season, but they had some really good players in them teams. You know, they've sold players from them teams back into the Premier League. Whereas you look at, like, let's say Luton, for example, last season who went down, the only player I think who come back was Ross Barkley. You know, everyone else has kind of stuck with them. So, you know, for Steve to get as a squad together in that first season and keep us up, I thought he did a superb job. You know, again, you know, at the start of last season, he was chucked a lot of players on him. I mean, what did we sign on deadline day? Was it 8 maybe? We also had a record signing in Sangare, who he didn't really, he started quite slow. So again, he was trying to jumble things around. There was clearly players brought in who he didn't want. And there was clearly players who we didn't need as a club, the likes of like Origi, etc. But I thought, you know, Steve kind of laid the foundations, and I'm really thankful for him for that. And Nuno's just took it on, really. You know, we've now got, I think, for the first time since we've been back to the Premier League, a Premier League squad and a settled squad as well. You know, there wasn't wholesale changes in the summer. We looked at who we needed to sign, which was obviously, you know, wingers as competition. We needed a centre back who's going to sort us out aerially, which we have done. You know, another fullback who was signed, and, you know, competition in that central midfield area. So just little intricate bits. And Nuno is, you know, tactically, you know, especially away from home, has pretty much done really well. And we just look, everyone seems to know what they're doing. Everyone knows the jobs, and we just look a proper Premier League outfit. I'd say for the first time this season, there were at times last season was times when we did, but then there was times when we didn't, and hence why we finished 17th and, you know, battling for relegation for much of the season. So it's just nice that we've got this settled squad now. We've also got rid of all the nonsense what hung us last season, which was, you know, the decisions against us and obviously the points deduction as well. And we can kind of move on, really.
One player who has really been taken into the hearts of pretty much every Nottingham Forest fan is, of course, Morgan Gibbs-White, who came off the bench for England on Thursday, just a couple of days ago. And for those who didn't see it, was really the thrust and reason for the third goal, driving forward into the Greek half, laying it off for Bowen, receiving it back. Beautiful assist across for for Curtis Jones's lovely back heel. And it just showed in that moment, Reese, didn't it, what Morgan Gibbs-White can give to a team. Just sum up for us your thoughts on Morgan, and do you think that there are more England caps for him, hopefully, when Tuchel takes over?
I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White is the type of player you pay your money for, because when he's on it, he's brilliant to watch. And, you know, we've just mentioned this on our pod this morning. Like, when you look at the stats, for example, this season, he started the move off with an absolutely superb pass for the first goal against West Ham. Now, that's not going to go on the goals and assist stats, what we're kind of, you know, he's thrown at us nowadays in football. But just look at that pass to Moreno to get that move started, and then obviously would turn it in. Do I think he's going to get more caps for England? It's going to be very tough, because the problem is for Morgan, and this is no slight on him at all, is that just the players in that who can play in that position. You know, you're looking at Jude Bellingham, who's, you know, playing at one player of the season in La Liga last season, playing for Real Madrid, biggest club in the world. You've got, you know, I know we shoehorn Phil Foden out on the wing, but I think he'd be better in a number 10 role for England. And he's, you know, Premier League player of the season last season, playing for Manchester City. And we've also got Cole Palmer, who's also playing that role, who's an absolute sensation. And look at what he's done for Chelsea. So I think when everyone's back fully fit, it might be tough for him. But hopefully he can be in there, because it's just brilliant to see for the club. It's brilliant for the fans. And, you know, I'm a massive England fan as well. So to see a Forest player coming on for England, it's, you know, it's a bit of a pinch me moment, and it makes you a little bit emotional, really, because it just shows you how far really the club's come in the last 5 years.
And not only England, we're hopefully going to see a Forest player gracing the pitch for Brazil in their next match, Murillo on the bench. I mean, it is the stuff the dreams are made of. And one thing I've said previously, it's these players have earned their first caps having played for Forest. They haven't come to Forest already with caps, and they're therefore just getting naturally picked again. The work they've done to earn their first caps and to be recognised has been from playing in a Forest shirt. And that, to me, makes it even more special because they've earned the right to play for these big countries, let's say, by playing for us. Right, we're on the hour mark. So the fourth official has just held up the added time board. So we got an extra 5 minutes that have been added by the fourth official. Thank you very much for that. So that gives us time to do this.
Name that grandmother.
So, yes, this is the little add-on that we have now introduced. The segment is called Name That Grandmother. This is another quick fire moment for you, Reese. I'm chucking at you. So here it comes. Marmite, love it or hate it?
Hate it.
How am I cooking your steak?
Medium.
Favorite cheese?
Oh, it's be either Red Leicester or Brie.
Pick one.
Or Red Leicester.
What's the best sandwich?
I'm very boring, so just cheese will do for me. A club sandwich is nice, though, to be fair.
And in honour of this segment,
Name that grandmother.
what are your grandmother's names? What are your grandmother's names? First names.
So one's called Betty, which is a very traditional grandmother name. My other grandma, who passed away before I was born, unfortunately, her name was Daisy.
I love hearing the names of grandmothers because they are just of the old-fashioned variety, and I think it's a great way to honour special people. So that's why we do it. Right, we're out of time just about, but we all are also going to mention that we're still in the month of November. It's the 16th of November, which is still Men's Mental Health Month. November is Men's Mental Health Month. We want to remind every male, not just today, your life matters. Even when things feel hopeless and dark, don't give up. You've come this far for a reason. You have the strength to get through any inner battle you're facing. And remember, you are never alone. You have a purpose and people who know you, love you, even when your brain tells you otherwise. Reese, there's lots of mental health promotion that is in the football arena, the football world arena, the podcast arena, perhaps. How important is it that we keep talking about this, do you think?
Oh, massively, mate. We've done stuff on our pod. We do a charity game at the end of each season between Forest fans, and we raise money for Mind, and it's something that we've said on our pod before. We used to kind of we mentioned it and got a bit of flack for it because obviously we're having an opinion on football, but yeah, massively important, mate. It only takes a couple of seconds to say to usually if folk are a bit quiet or if your friends seem a little bit off, it only takes a couple of seconds, to ask your friends, are they okay and stuff. And, that can ignite a conversation easily. So, it's massively important to speak to your mates. And it's really good nowadays that we're kind of seeing so much of this. And it's also really good that like the club are doing it. I seen Toffolo and Zach Abbott the other day doing it with the bottled up blokes. So yeah, definitely. If you if you ever are feeling, like mental health is getting on top of you, go and speak to somebody because there's plenty of options out there.
And I think it's important that you say as well as friends, as buddies, just to kind of check in with people and just say, how you doing? Are you okay? And Richard and I, we do that on a daily basis, don't we, Richard?
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to give Greg a shout out. He did that yesterday for me. And so it was a hard week. Just like you said, Reese, you never know what people are going through day by day, week by week. And so that makes a difference.
It is a stigma around men because, the perception of like men is like you should be macho and you should like, take everything on your shoulders. But, sometimes, you can't, but it just gets on top of people. I hate to use this example, but I'll use it just before we wrap up. But one of mine and my dad's friends who was the biggest rugby bloke you'd imagine, top Forest fan, used to come from every game from Halifax. He had mental health struggles and committed suicide, unfortunately. So, and you look at him and you'd think, look, he looks like the strongest bloke what you could imagine seeing, but inside, he unfortunately felt this way. And yeah, it gets me emotional talking about it now, because he used to message me after every game on a Saturday on like Twitter privately, and say, what did you think of the game? And then 1 week he just didn't, and unfortunately, Fountain passed away, which is a real shame.
Reese, thank you for sharing that, and
No problem.
I can see how hard it is to talk about. We won't beat around the bush or beat the drum too hard, but we will keep talking about men's mental health and mental health in general, and we'll champion it. We'll do our bit as much as we can. I say it every single time. Speak to someone. If you want to speak to a stranger, our DMs are open. Talking Reds DMs are open. If you want to just get some shit off your chest, there you go. I've dropped a swear word. Who cares?
Same for our pod as well. And we've actually had a couple of people who message. I'm not going to, say who they are, but
Sure.
in private. And yeah, just if that what makes people feel better, just having a chat with people, and like you said, Greg, getting it off your chest, and do it. You guys have obviously got you pair on your pod. There's 4 of us who run our pod socials. Just by all means, chuck a DM in.
Fantastic. I've dropped the link in the comments for Christian Brown's book, Just Can't Get Enough. And so do go and check it out on Amazon. And like I said, support Christian with his first book if you can. It looks like it's going to be a good one. We have moved on. We are in the Nuno era. The Nuno era. I tell you what, guys, I can't even speak today at the moment.
It's not even a word!
But the Cooper years will never be forgotten. He did so much for us, and that book looks like it's going to sum that up beautifully. Like and subscribe, please, if you can. It helps us out no end. We're doing what we can to push forward towards the big 1,000. So if you can hit like in this video and subscribe and share and all that kind of stuff, it's really, really helpful. Reese, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, guys. But really enjoyed it.
Floor is yours. Tell us when the next Red Side's going out and your final thoughts.
Yeah, so we did it this morning, and we recorded this one, so I'd imagine it'll be probably going out tomorrow. Just a bit of a season review so far, a little bit of a quiz of the season so far, some tough questions on there, and just a bit of a roundup, really. And then I think we've got a preview of an Arsenal podcast in the week, which Adam on the pod does. And then obviously we'll be back on a week tomorrow to review the Arsenal game, hopefully another positive result. And yeah, just to sum up Forest this season, like I said on this pod already, just taking it a game by game basis, enjoying the ride. Just, I think the top point is just to reiterate that it's just lovely not to be looking over his shoulder and thinking, oh my God, Leicester have won this week, Ipswich have won this week, we're going to be in the bottom 3. So just enjoying the ride at the minute, and we'll see where it takes us. That's all I can really say. Top
man, absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Richard Spray, gonna let you sign off in Oklahoma. Any final thoughts for us today, Richard?
No, just appreciate Reese. Also want to give a shout out to Holly, who was on in a chat earlier with her Forest Women's Fan Cast. They've had a recent episode they brought out, and they do great work. And I actually checked out Rad's live episode yesterday, and he did a great job, him and Premier Elliott. Check out David's stuff at Rad's. He does a great job. But yeah, all these guys do great things, and Red Side of the Trent right at the top of that list. So thanks, Reese.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. Anyone listening, go and watch all the Forest content you can. Whoever does it, we're all on the same team. Ultimately, we want the best thing for Nottingham Forest. And, the season is still only a quarter of the way through, and we're sitting 5th in the Premier League. All eyes on England tomorrow. I'm taking Orlando to Wembley. So hopefully we'll see Morgan get on the pitch and see a Forest player in live for England. That'll be an absolute dream, really. I'm looking forward to that. Enjoy your weekend, folks. This has been the one with Reese from Red Side of the Trent. We'll see you next time.